I don't listen as much as I would like to. In real listening, like really listening. I can only speak for myself, and since I've been to counselling on this specific topic of resentment, I've done so much better with my life in general and relationships and stuff. So
how does one develop a relationship with those negative characteristics?
When I think about myself and the counselling that I did with the relationship counselling, I think that was about 40 quid an hour. And I did about 6 sessions in total. But when you think about what I've gained from those moments of speaking to a counsellor, understanding and listening to my partner's points of view without kind of mentally kind of blocking stuff or mentally kind of creating my own drama while she's actually speaking. That in itself is a tool to kind of like work with. Like we don't really. I'm not to say not everybody, but I find that I don't listen as much as I would like to. In real listening, like really listening, without thoughts or feelings coming up into my mind. So the counselling gave me that opportunity to kind of pay attention, and although at a cost, but a very minimal cost, really, when you think about what can be achieved from going to counselling, especially if you really are discerning and you want to make change. There is a lot of tools, like we spoke in our last session, that you can take some tools that you can learn from that counselling and use them to support yourself and your relationship. So I guess is it valuable? Is the knowledge
valuable? Yeah. I was going to say, in terms of the cost implication, because I think that is a concern, but there are other ways that you can, for example, in the employment sector, you get 6-3 counselling sessions. I know you spoke about that 6 before. I'm not sure whether the Samaritans and things like that might be a free service as well. So in terms of barrier to entry, I'd say, explore that because and don't make the cost your defining kind of barometer in terms of accessing, support and therapy, because there are things out there which are not that you don't have to pay for, or even just speaking to somebody really who might not be, a trained counsellor, but they can give you counsel. Sure. So I think, for me, it's about reaching out if you can, or if you feel that you can, really, because I can only speak for myself personally. When you internalize things, that sometimes can lead to other things or other thoughts and feelings that, that maybe if you did speak to somebody, you might not go in that direction.
100%.
So yeah, so in terms of Barrett, I just want to say that Barrett, because sometimes people think, oh, cost, I can't afford it, 40 quid, because all right, it's a Nando's, but 40 quid, particularly in this day and age, is a lot of money to some people.
Absolutely.
So I would say, explore that and try and see whether or not you can remove those barriers to entry.
Yeah. Well, I like you said, there's a lot of free services out there. NHS, Samaritans, like you said, even workplace counselling are there.
Yeah.
There's also online, counsellors that speak about stuff online.
100%.
There's loads of books on counselling. Nick has, told me quite a few that I personally would invest in. But it's apart from the money side of things, is there anything else? What about the emotional side of things? Because to a certain degree, for me, it took a bit of, coaxing to actually get involved, especially on my own personal ones, because that was definitely a bit more of that needed a little bit more kind of thought and bravery, because I'm dealing with emotional issues that that even I don't really know the full capacity of, because I've not really brought it to the forefront and said to myself, look, let me deal with this. So
yeah.
What would you say on that, Nick, in terms of like the kind of the emotional kind of implications that, you know, some of the things that you need to kind of like think about, not that you should avoid going to counseling, but some of the things that might, you know, raise up
You,
and need, additional support or anything of that nature.
you've mentioned something in this, that when you went to counselling with a partner and you was talking and you kind of sat there and you're hearing what's being said, and you could do it in a space where you're not kind of reacting to it. That in and of itself is so effing important. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, me and Inch get into a disagreement now. Me and my partner get into a disagreement now. And he says something to me. And I start feeling a way. We hear that comment all the time. I was feeling some kind of way about that. Okay, cool. Right. The obvious thing is, that's your defensive nature kicking in. That's the feeling. You're feeling defensive now. Okay, cool. What therapy taught me to do, and what teaches me to do, is to look at that. What is going on here? What am I being defensive about? My partner is now telling me I'm a selfish git, blah, 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 whatever that may be. And I'm now getting defensive. Okay, what's going on? And really studying that. That's what it does for me. That's the important part, to really look at self and say, well, am I? Not just take it at face value, but also not dismiss it at face value. Have a look at that for self on a genuine level. That's what you experienced when you was in therapy. That's what it's about. The emotional side, this is why when we were saying last week, let's not kid anyone and say that there isn't anxiety or fear around going to therapy. Because what it's going to do, it's going to open you up to you. That's the easiest way that I can kind of describe it. It's going to open, I'm going to say for you, Win, it's going to open Winston up to Winston Phillips, to elements of Winston that he's unaware of, to elements that he just goes along with, and he's been going along with for ages, and now all of a sudden, damn, hang on a minute, I've got to admit, I know where that comes from now. Okay, well, now you've got that, people can now say that's a real burden. Well, actually, you can now do something about it if you wish to. But if you don't know about it, you're living with that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So,
I think Mike kind of touched on that same thing, Nick, when he was talking about how it's going to be there anyway. So
exactly.
No matter what you do, you're still going to have to deal with it somehow, some way. So we can hide it, but it will come out in anger, resentment, and relationship breakdowns and feuds, arguments, and things of that nature. But I suppose the great part of it, though, and I'm talking about from my own personal experience, is the balance that I got after a few months of kind of reckoning with that side of my character, and then addressing the issue, and then I'm now balanced. I'm now looking at things a bit more proactively. I'm not allowing myself to become resentful, and although you still can see the early parts of your resentment, or like, let's say, the embryo of your resentment, it's not growing into a fully fledged child or adult. You take stock of it, and I see it, but then I can just say, okay, I see you. I see what's going on here. I know that you want to try and get me into that resentful frame of mind, but I'm not going to allow it today. I'm going to put my positive, I'm going to get my toolbox out, and I'm going to put that positive thing in there. Whatever that be, communication, love, joy, I replace it. And if you don't kind of get to kind of having that conversation with a counselor or with a friend even, or with some kind of support mechanism, you're still going to go back to the same habits, which are going to cause more trauma. So, if you do want to grow out of it, although it takes a bit of bravery, there is reward at the end of it, because there is alchemy. There's that balance. There's that, it's like a breath of fresh air. because you're dealing with your new character now.
So when
and
can
you-
I?
and you're-
Sorry, as well. Sorry, Win. Let me just jump in for a second. So
Mm.
everything you just said, I'm with you. There's one thing that I do need to kind of say here, because otherwise I'd be feeling like I'm being a bit fraudulent, and that is this: if I come to you two with an issue that I have, that is therapeutic. 100% therapeutic.
Yeah.
It is not.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It is not therapy. These are two
Okay.
different things.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
you
Yeah.
guys are absolutely a bit like Michael with Arsenal. He's biased.
Am I?
And the fact
I
that
think
you
really-
can't, the fact that you can't see it tells me you need more than therapeutic friendship, bruv. But anyway, we'll move on. What I'm trying to say is, you guys will be biased in my favor. You're going to.
Yeah.
He's thinking of something to come back at you right now.
Yeah, I know he is.
No,
I know
no,
he is.
no,
I know
no,
he is.
no. It will come organically. Win. Don't
No,
worry.
yeah, it will. It will.
It will
Yeah,
take as
yeah.
long as Arsenal's title. But so for me,
Absolutely.
my bit here is kind of, there's a massive difference between therapeutic communication with friends, which is massively important, as we've discussed, and then going into therapy. I want to go to see a stranger that doesn't know me, that doesn't have a dog in the fight, if you like, for me. So when I'm saying something that they say, I don't get this isn't making sense. I've made it make sense to me. I need them to be able to say, Nick, you're talking BS.
Yeah.
You know,
So-
in
so
a
it's-
therapeutic
is it
way,
an
because they
un-
wouldn't use that term, but in
Yeah.
a therapeutic way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get what
Sorry.
you mean.
So
Yeah.
is it an unwritten rule then that ideally, and it's only ideally, that counsellors shouldn't counsel people that they know?
Oh, that's not unwritten.
I know they
that's,
do.
That's absolutely written.
Oh, right.
That's 101.
Okay.
You do not counsel, you do not do therapy with friends and family. You don't do it. It's a
Right.
no-no. Because Mike,
Because of some of the things, because of what you just mentioned about
Mike,
that bias,
I'm
about
on
that
your
you might.
side. I'm on your side, Mike.
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah.
in a relationship where it's going a bit left, where it's not working, I am unconsciously going to sit there and say, oh, well, it's her fault. And I
Yeah.
don't want to do that. I want to be able to work with you on what your issues are.
Sure.
But I won't. I'll be on your side saying, she sounds like she's out of order. And that's wrong. That's not the right way. There's nothing therapeutic, if you like, about that.
Yeah.
It's about the
Yeah.
genuine nature of what's going on for you. This all comes down to what you value. So I would love to go out for a beautiful meal with my better half. I would love to go out for a that's lovely. But if that's going to cost me £100, well, there's 2 sessions of absolute learning about this one here. And what's that going to do? It's going to make me be a better partner in the long run anyway.
Yeah.
You know the exploration
Mm,
phase.
mm,
You know, like workplaces only give the 6 sessions. I know we
Yeah.
spoke about this before.
yeah.
It would take longer than 6 sessions for that exploration, I would say.
Mike,
in
what-
some cases.
Yeah, what they've done is the society that we live in, unfortunately, is what it's done is it's taken from a guy called Egan. And what Egan's done is Egan's come up with a process that says there's exploration at the beginning, then there's new understanding, and then there's basically putting that into action, if you like. Those are the 3 sections. So what our system has done for money is said 2, 2, 2. Hence why we get offered 6 sessions.
So it's only 2 on exploration.
2 on exploration, 2 on, well, they've just worded it for 6 sessions now, but the reality is
Yeah.
there's something within my theory called psychological contact. Psychological contact for me will take a minimum, I'm going to say between 6 and 10 sessions, just for psychological
really?
contact. Yeah, it's deep work. This stuff is not,
Yeah.
it's deep work. You're really looking into who this being is.
So have you replaced exploration with psychological, what did you say, contact? What did you say?
Psychological contact is something that, as far as Carl Rogers, the theorist that I follow, basically anything before psychological contact is basically, in essence, pre-therapy. It's therapeutic, and we're getting there, and it's a part of the process. But it's not until that part of psychological contact that really the heavy work can really begin. It's a bit like I go to a ballroom and I learn dancing, a foxtrot. I ain't got a clue what that is. I've heard of it. I don't know what it is. If I'm with a dancing partner and she's teaching me her foxtrot, I'm going to be standing on her toes for the first few sessions, right? Until I learn
Yeah.
her rhythm, until I learn her move, until I learn her way. Once we're now both in flow, now there's psychological contact.
And you can't put a number on that, can you?
Absolutely not. So 6 sessions in all. I'm not saying it wouldn't be useful. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be useful. I need to kind of say that. But I know that for me, long-term therapy is where it's at. That's where the real work is. Which is why when Winston went private, you can go for as long as you want.
I suppose, though, I mean, there's different levels to this, to therapy and counselling, because what I might have been going through might not be nothing on the Richter scale of what someone else is going through.
Yeah.
There might be several different types of, trauma going on, and stuff that you're not even probably aware of. So yes, some people are going to take much longer. It might take years. We don't know. For me, I thought, I think I had about 12 sessions in total, and it set me up neat to be able to kind of give me that scaffold. And I said it before, to kind of look into things like Carl Jung, which Nick referred me to a certain degree. But it's funny, I just talking about it, I had a strange, well, we call it strange, but it was last week. I had a dream, and I woke up like about 4 o'clock in the morning. And it's not unusual for that to happen. It happens from time to time. But what I generally would do is I would just go onto maybe YouTube and listen to the relaxing music or something like that. But what came up, funny enough, because we had a you spoke about Carl Jung, and what the first thing that came up on my YouTube feed was Carl Jung. I was like, right, okay, I'm going to listen to this. And he was talking about the shadow self. And I spoke to you guys about it, but it was very interesting in looking at the personality, the person who we are, that we don't want everybody to see, or we don't want to familiarize everybody with. So I listened to it. It's about an hour long, and it was so inspiring for me that, I've gone out and I've bought a couple of books on it, and I would definitely recommend it to people anyone that really wants to understand themselves and look into that character, maybe what we might regard as negative, but it's not really, because once you master that character to a certain degree, but from what I can understand, I know, because Carl Jung, he can go quite deep, but once we become familiar with that character, it can lead to being an absolute, giant of a human being afterwards. Because you learn so much about yourself and that hidden character. You can learn how to. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say I go into a boardroom and I'm a bit nervous and I'm not sure why. I have to kind of manage my nerves and my anxiety. But when you kind of look at that anxiety and where it's coming from, you can learn how to master that by looking at the shadow self, looking at the person what's going on behind closed doors, so to speak. And you can learn how to kind of put things in place to kind of deal with it, because you look at yourself and say, look, okay, I realize that I'm nervous, I'm anxious here, but what am I actually anxious of? Okay. And how is that actually going to impact on me? Really? If I say something wrong, nothing really. I'm still going to get my wages, right? So, and people are still going to be okay with me, right? So it's kind of developing that kind of relationship and knowing that, okay, I feel secure in my insecurity, so to speak. What do you think?
So just for me, so it's developing relationships with certain characteristics of your shadow self, which could be potentially negative, or could be deemed to be negative.
Well, it is negative.
Anxiety,
working with it and changing it it makes you a better person. It's just you just. I can only speak for myself, and since I've been to counselling on this specific topic of resentment, I've done so much better with my life in general, in relationships and stuff. So it's had a good balancing on my personality. And now I'm even looking into books like Carl Jung. I'm looking at to go deeper and try to understand a bit more and be a better version of myself.
Can I ask a question though?
Mm.
And Nick, those characteristics, and I know the theory behind it, but I know we've only got a few minutes. So how does one, how does one develop a relationship with those negative characteristics? So it's okay, yeah, I recognize they're there, but how do I form that intimate relationship with those negative characteristics?
So
Are there any techniques that one could use?
Really quickly, I need to say something on what Winston just said a minute ago, and then I'll touch on that, Mike. Yeah. Okay. So what you're talking about there, Win, and again, I need to preface this as well. Carl Jung, in my opinion, is by far that in capital letters, by far the most intelligent human being I have ever read anything about, and that includes my theorist, Carl Rogers, who I adore Carl Rogers. But Carl Jung, for me, is the deepest guy I've ever read. So I'm not claiming, I need to kind of put that caveat out there. I'm not claiming to understand Carl Jung. Individuation, Win, is what you're talking about. Something that Carl Jung talks about is individuation. Individuation is when you get all of these parts of you, all of these little characteristics of you, and you kind of you understand as much of them as you can. That's what we're working towards, being full. So if Mike, two things on what you said really quickly. If somebody tells me that they're a genuine human being and they understand themselves fully, I'm out. I've got no conversation to have with that human being. I'm gone. I'm out of that. Because nobody on this planet does completely understand themselves fully. I would say, imagine an Olympic-sized swimming pool. I've just put my little toe into one end of it. That's how much I understand about this one. Right. And I'm trying to understand more. Okay, so now on to the other bit. What's the technique? Again, it's going to be on an individual basis, but here's the easiest analogy I can give. At one point, the three of us as youngsters would have had an emotional response to something, and we would have held back tears. We would have stepped away from actually going through with that emotion. This is real basic what I'm saying. What we are doing then is pushing that part of us aside in that one instance, yeah? Now, to take it to the space, what we're doing is we've pushed that aside. We're almost pushing that into the unconscious. We're pushing that down. We're pushing that away. Yeah. Are we now saying that emotional side has gone? No.
Suppressed.
It's suppressed. There. We're trying to suppress it, and that's really important. You're never going to suppress it. You're trying to, but it will come out in one way or another. You brush dirt under the carpet, eventually you're going to have a bulge in your carpet and you will trip over it. It will show itself. So the way to deal with this, for me, is to get to know it. Is if I want to influence another human being, I have to get to know them. I have to have some sort of understanding of who that person is to influence them, right? Okay, so if I keep on pushing them away and say, go away, I'd never influence them. But they might be knowing me and influencing me. And that's exactly what's going on internally. So what I have to do is, once I'm having an emotional response, is to actually sit there and say, what's this about? I may cry my eyes out. I may want to punch something, you know what I mean, a wall or a pillar like an idiot. Okay, well, if that's my response, what's that about? And hello, here's the abyss that we can look into. Yeah,
because it can go on and on and on and on.
It's never ending.
It's a layer after a layer after a layer. Yeah.
But you know, following on from what Nick's saying, it's those small steps. You know, I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. So taking those little small steps, dealing with one little thing, is going to create some positive reactions.
Absolutely.
So that it makes you stronger, so you can build up to deal with the next one, and then on and on.
Perfect.
And some things they're just not going to disappear. But you might be able to put a Band-Aid over it just to get you by, I suppose. But you know, it's a hell of a topic, counseling, and you know, I mean, we're all in agreement that it's something that we all kind of need to kind of pay attention to, probably more so than what I kind of been able to kind of put across.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah,
I love that.
there's
Vince.
loads of support out there.
I love what you've just said, more than what we can put across. And here's the bit that I want to say, and I know that I might get grief from this from you two or whatever, but I've said this before. I love human beings individually. I love them, every one of them.
Yeah.
As a collective, we're absolute donuts. But individually, I love human beings. And my bit is everyone that's ever watching this in the future or what, they're worth so much. So yeah,
Absolutely.
and Nando's taste good. You're trying to be a better partner. So you're taking your missus out for a meal. I get that. Do that. I'm not saying don't do that. You're going to get so much more value out of just genuinely learning who this one is. And you deserve to do that. Every single one of us deserve that. You know, so that's my hippie way of saying I love all of these people, and I just want them to. Everyone deserves the best for themselves.
Definitely up the balance, the alchemy.
Yes.
Let's do that, man. Seriously, like there's a lot of difficulty in the world at the present moment. So
It is. Do you know what I mean? And I think, you know, we spend a lot of time getting to know other people, which is a human kind of, you know, thing to do, but we don't take the time to actually know ourselves, do we?
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, what our characteristics are and what makes ourselves tick. So that's
Absolutely.
You're right, actually.
100%.
You're right.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's great, guys. It's time. It's getting close to that time.
Yeah.
If you've got any final points, anything that you want to kind of add?
No, well, I just want to pick up something you said earlier, actually. It's about listening. Because that's something that I'm really going to try and do more of, really.
Sorry.
Yeah, because I'm
Certainly not listening about Arsenal.
listening and disregarding. No, listening. Because I think sometimes we only listen and we don't pay attention, like you said, when I should say, which I need to start to do more. Because if you do listen, you'll normally get something. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes it's sometimes we only listen to counterattack as well. You know, we listen, but we're not. Are we actually hearing? You know what I mean?
Love that. Love that. I'm gonna echo you, Inch, on that. That is something me and you have spoken about that off camera. The most frustrating thing in the world for me is not being heard. It's the most frustrating. And I know that I'm guilty of doing the same to others as well, where I don't hear them properly. And I know, so it's something I've always trying to keep an eye on, because I'm saying I love individuals and I want to hear them. I really do. But I know I fail. But it's that constant, as Winston was saying earlier on, it's that constant trying, step by step. And if I'm making my effort to, and it's part of the reason why I value you two within this friendship, is because I know that I'm heard. You know, I'm slagged off a bit more than I like, but I know, but I know that I'm heard.
As you were.
So that's it for me, really. Is I'm going to echo Mike. Yeah, hearing.
I think, like, you know, that old saying, like, when you're pointing the finger, there's three fingers pointing back at yourself, man. And it's you know, and I can be a bit of a moaner and a groaner sometimes, and I can complain about stuff. But really, who am I hurting when I'm doing all that? I really just hurt myself in it, really. I'm just moaning at myself the majority of the time. Most people are listening. So it's better to just, you know, sit in a place of, like, just chill, not take life too seriously. But just remember that there's three fingers pointing back, and, you know, just remember that. Stop pointing the fingers. Just chill out. Be happy. Be zen. It's cool. That's me. Done.